Does it feel like time is moving faster? Welcome to episode 20. I'm sitting here in New Haven, watching the sun move across the brickwork, and I've realized the architects have stopped trying to be subtle. Time isn't slipping away. It feels like it's being harvested. Think about the sheer velocity of the garbage being thrown at your dashboard. We're hearing Benjamin Netanyahu might actually be now a high-fidelity deepfake playing out this bullshit script, that he was killed in an Iranian airstrike. Donald Trump just endorsed Jake Paul for political office, which is essentially the simulation's way of saying, I've given up on the plot. Let's just see what happens if we put a YouTuber in the Oval Office. And while you're trying to process the collapse of the state, Taco Bell just came out and dropped a Crème Brûlée Crunchwrap Supreme. That's not a snack, folks. That's a final meal for a civilization that has lost its sense of taste. It's the culinary equivalent of playing violin on the deck of the Titanic as it sinks. But the band, in this case, is just an underpaid teenager high on pot dropping a triangle-shaped tortilla filled with corn syrup into a deep fryer. They want you moving so fast you can't see the architecture of it all. You know, a Palantir whistleblower just confirmed what the Coon Skin Nation already knew. The goal isn't to serve the government and the people. It's to replace the government from inside out. This whistleblower claims that Palantir's goal has been to install ex-Palantir employees into every mid-level bureau, like they're installing 10mm bolts into a subframe. By the time you wake up and realize the country is being run by an automated AI spreadsheet, the undo button will have disappeared. But look at the studs. Look at the studs. Have you noticed them? Because I have. I've seen them everywhere. They've emerged from hibernation early. They're standing in the middle of this high-velocity chaos with a level of stillness that is terrifying to the average man. You see a stud in public, and you feel compelled as a man to apologize for driving a sedan. A stud doesn't care about a Crème Brûlée Crunchwrap Supreme. A stud doesn't care about the Jake Paul political endorsement. She's too busy checking the plumbing on a construction project that's going to outlast all of this. It's this rushing, the quickness, the franticness. That's the trick. It's all a trick. It's designed to make you feel like the end of the song is the only thing that matters. They want you focused on the crashing chord of the finale so you don't notice you're being cheated out of the dance. I was thinking about Alan Watts. He had this insight that basically exposes the entire scam of the modern hustle. He said we've been tricked into treating life like a business trip or a pilgrimage, something where the only point is to arrive at the destination. But life isn't a trip. It's a song. Think about it. You don't listen to a symphony just to hear the final note. If that were the case, the best conductor would be the one who finished the fastest, and the composers would only write finales. You don't dance to reach a specific spot on the carpet. The whole point of dancing is the dance itself. But it feels like we try to work the piano instead of playing it. We spend 40 years overclocking our lives. Saving up for retirement will be too busy to enjoy. All because we think there's some big prize at the end of the line. Well, newsflash, there isn't. The end of the song is just silence. Society wants you rushing towards that silence so that you don't notice the music playing right now. They want you focused on the success or the heaven at the end of the journey so that they can own your present journey. But the reality is musical in nature. You were supposed to sing and dance while the music was playing. So, Coon Skin Nation, stop trying to arrive. Stop trying to finish the simulation. Just pick up the rhythm, slap your kidneys like a good Chinese uncle, walk backwards if you have to, and enjoy the dance while the track is still spinning. Stay grateful, stay rugged, and for the love of God, stop rushing. Welcome back to the Taylor Morris Show. Welcome back, Coon Skin Nation. We have a nice episode in store today. Hope you enjoyed that monologue. I was really thinking a lot about, because I was going to do a monologue on how life is moving so quickly, and it was sort of going to be pessimistic or nihilistic, and I was like, wait a second. You guys are probably hearing that everywhere right now. Let me put a spin on it. It's really about sort of detaching. And that doesn't mean being emotionally numb to it all, but saying, this is all a gift. What a show this all is. And we get a front row seat to it. So I have a Chinese maxing update that I want to kick things off with. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. Benjamin Netanyahu's AI stuff. The Age of Attraction, or Age of Consent Netflix show that I watched. The gay bomb that the Pentagon developed in the 90s. A lot of fun stuff. And I just want to say this episode is dedicated to Caitlyn Jenner. Again, Caitlyn Jenner, we need you now. This is a break the glass scenario. Trump shouldn't have been endorsing Jake Paul for president. He should have been endorsing goddamn Caitlyn Jenner. It's time to unleash your greatest weapon. Anyways, Chinese maxing update. So for those of you just tuning in, and if you're enjoying the podcast, give it a follow. Give it a rating. Leave a comment. Share it with your friends. Get the word about the Coon Skin Nation out. So for those of you unfamiliar with Chinese maxing, it's this idea that we all ought to be, that the ideal we're striving to is a Chinese man. Let me explain that, okay? We need to live more Chinese. So the things we've talked about so far, when you're walking, walk with your hands behind your back. Slap your kidneys a little bit to get that chi moving. Take a nap in a public place if you feel compelled to. Do some Tai Chi in the park. Have an aquarium inside your home. Maintain a general disregard for animal welfare. Go to the zoo. Become a degenerate gambler. Smoke 20 to 40 cigarettes a day. Hike your shirt up over your belly. Covet jade, the rare stone. And I have some new ones here. The new ones are chew with your mouth open, slurp noodles, stuff like that. Have a pet bird. And when you go grocery shopping, have in tow, this is my favorite one of those little metal carts with those wheels, that you see Chinese people pulling around? Because they don't carry bags. That's a very Western American thing. You want to have one of those little metal carts in tow. Because the Chinese man does not concern himself with carrying groceries. You let gravity and inertia and the physics of the wheel do the work. All right, so that was an exciting update there. I do want to read a little word from one of our sponsors. Again, if you're just tuning in for the first time, I would listen to these because you might learn something. The Taylor Morris Show is proud to partner with a new company called the Toque, or the Tuck. Most men wake up tired not because of their diet, but because they've been burglarized. While you sleep, the perimeter of your consciousness is unguarded. And there are entities, Jezebel spirits, succubus frequencies, that don't want your money. They want your source energy. And they're looking for the most direct biological port to siphon your divinity, the tip of your penis. Introducing the Toque. Inspired by the sacred geometry of the planes, the Toque is a micro dream catcher designed for the modern warrior. hand-woven with reinforced sinew and ethically sourced sage-infused fibers, it fits discreetly over the apex of your vitality. It doesn't just catch bad dreams. It acts as a biological firewall. When the Jezebel spirits come to harvest your soul at 3 a.m., they don't find a gateway. They find an impenetrable web. The toque. Guard the portal, retain the soul. Because a man without his essence is just a biological shell with a Netflix subscription. Use code CoonSkin for 15% off your first spiritual holster. Jean-Philippe from Paris, France says, these are some testimonials, I was skeptical. I thought, it's just a small net. How's it going to stop a fourth dimensional Jezebel spirit? Then came Tuesday night. I felt the room temperature drop. I heard the faint sound of a succubus frequency giggle near the foot of the bed. Usually, that's where my energy gets siphoned, and I wake up needing a 4-hour nap. But not this time. I felt a slight tugging on the sinew, heard a screech like a dial-up modem dying, and the entity vanished. The toque caught it like a fly in a spider web. I didn't even have to get out of bed. It's the best $2,500 I've ever spent. Brock from Austin says, I spent $80,000 on sleep optimization, Aura rings, cooling mattresses, specialized blackout curtains, dream psychics. But I was still waking up feeling like a hollowed out shell. I realized I was protecting my biology, but leaving my meridian wide open for the taking. Since I started wearing the toque, the Sovereign Edition, my deep sleep scores have tripled, and more importantly, the spectral drain is gone. I woke up yesterday and felt like I could manifest a regional distribution center out of thin air. If you're not guarding your portal, you're just working for the entities. 5 stars. And finally, Big Sal from Fall River, Massachusetts says, look, I work 12-hour shifts. I don't have time for astral projection or chakra clearing. I just need my essence to stay in my body so I can operate heavy machinery. Big Sal, we get it. The toque is the first spiritual tool I've used that feels like actual hardware. It's rugged, it's discreet, and it treats a soul extraction like a security breach. It's like a deadbolt for your divinity. If you're sleeping untooked, you're basically leaving your keys in the ignition in a bad neighborhood. Don't be a statistic. Thank you for that. Really excited to be partnering with the toque. Again, leave a comment if you want one sent in the mail. We have a couple samples. So I want to kick off a segment of something I've been thinking about. I've always been very infatuated with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And I think it's more relevant today with Epstein Island. If you think about it, Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory was the first edition of an Epstein Island. What's the one thing children love? Well, we know from the child catcher, children love candy. Children love candy. And in an age before the internet, how do you lure children to a place where you can disappear them in a chocolate river or fill their belly with carbonation so they float into the attic and get trapped there? Well, you put golden tickets in the most loved chocolate bars in the land. And that's exactly what happened to Willy Wonka. The Willy Wonka movie, and I'm talking about the original. The remake is kind of bullshit, but the original Willy Wonka is one of the most psychedelic movies I've ever seen. Gene Wilder, he went from Blazing Saddles, where he liberally dropped the N-word, to Willy Wonka. And they go through that psychedelic tunnel. He's this weird guy that's very secretive. He pretends to have a physical ailment. The children get into the chocolate factory, and he basically does a somersault and was like, I'm lying? Well, Willy, what else are you lying about? What else are you lying about? And one by one, he picks off the children and their caretakers who are dumb enough to take the bait with the golden ticket and come to the chocolate factory. Anyways, what I want to talk about is not too much about that, but rather my fascination with chocolate factories as a whole. So bear with me. I have a fascination with chocolate factories, and I also have a fascination with studs. Black, typically African-American female lesbians. I guess lesbians are female. But I'm talking about chromosomally female lesbians. And so I had an idea for a chocolate factory staffed entirely by studs. What's it called? It's called Darkest Chocolate. And the concept would be an 80,000 square foot industrial chocolate factory staffed entirely by studs, bigger than an Amazon distribution warehouse. Like huge. There would be no whimsical songs, no purple gay top hats, and absolutely no glitter. If you bring glitter in there, you're shot on sight. It's a union shop style place where the chocolate would be tempered with the same precision as a structural weld. So I've been thinking about it, and in my design for it, I think, like, I want to talk about the aesthetic. So the uniform of these chocolatiers would be double knee Carhartt pants, of course, or work boots, very clean Timbs, and hairnets that are stretched tight over backward snapbacks. Everyone's also wearing a sweatshirt with a chain on the outside. The atmosphere would be like the smell of chocolate, but also a very heavy aroma of WD-40 that no one really knows where it comes from, but it's definitely there. And the music would not be, come with me and you'll see there's a world of pure imagination. Take a look. No, none of that. I'm gonna be curious to hear to play that back and how that sounded. It's gonna be fucking DMX. Only DMX. And the machinery, there's no in the Darkest Chocolate, the chocolate factory, there are no chocolate rivers. There are these pressurized hydraulic vats. And instead of golden tickets, there are going to be engravings on 10 millimeter sockets that you find at like Home Depot, if you're lucky enough. Like, you're at Home Depot, these are blue collar guys shopping for sockets, and you'll pick one up that has a little engraving, just like a time and an address when you got to be there. And that's your golden ticket. That's your golden ticket. Again, this is a stud chocolate factory. In terms of quality control, there's no federal inspections, no FDA. There's just a woman named Diesel, and she stands at the end of the line with a clipboard and one of those silver wallet chains. And there's no tasting or testing the safety or cleanliness or taste of the chocolate. All she does is pick up the chocolate and snaps it. She's measuring the snap. And she does it with like a micrometer or a piece of industrial equipment. And if the snap is off by even a fraction of a degree, Diesel looks at the chocolate. She stares at it with such an intense disappointment that the molecular structure of the piece of chocolate actually corrects itself out of fear. These are studs we're talking about. Customer service, there is none. If you call and say your order's late, you're basically getting, well, life's tough. I mean, we're actually rotating the tires on the delivery fleet right now. And the chocolate's going to get there when it gets there. Drink some water, bitch. And there's no break room. There's a pull-up bar and a communal pot of black coffee that could literally dissolve a penny. That's the break room. And lastly, I want to talk about the menu. So I've written down some notes here. The first item on the menu is called the U-Haul bar, and it's a chocolate bar so dense, it actually requires 2 people to carry it. It comes with a free moving box and in a sense of immediate commitment. There's another product called the 5 a.m. shift. It is 99.5% cacao. It tastes like a burnt cigarette and a cold morning. And it doesn't give you a sugar high. It gives you like a sudden urge to go fix a fence. We have the snapback truffle, which has a salted caramel center. And basically the snapback truffle is very tough on the outside, but surprisingly soft and emotionally available on the inside. I think, if we're being honest, that's the archetype of a lot of these studs. The studliness, yeah, I don't want to speculate too much, but it probably comes from a place of deep trauma. And then finally, we have the cargo pocket clusters. And these are chocolate-covered peanuts in a bag that is designed to perfectly fit into the side pocket of a pair of work pants. So we're very excited about that. And honestly, if the darkest chocolate is something you'd like a socket wrench or win a ticket to go to your local Home Depot and just hope you find the right socket wrench. So we have another word from our sponsor before we get into my hot takes and then the news. And we're going to finish with a little philosophy. Again, if you're enjoying this, like, subscribe, whatever. I don't want to make you, but I'm fucking making you, boys. We're going to the moon. Coon Skin Nation. Honestly. And the person who shares this episode the most, I will personally send you a coonskin hat in the mail. We'll figure out how to do that. So the Taylor Morris Show is excited to announce we've partnered with a neural implant device that only plays episodes of The View. Let's be honest with ourselves. You weren't built for any of this. The human brain was designed to track berries and avoid leopards, not process the 24-hour collapse of Western hegemony. Your source consciousness is redlining. You're glitching. You're having thoughts again, and frankly, they're making the shareholders nervous. Introducing the V-chip from Consensus Corp. The V-chip is a permanent cognitive dampener that replaces your jagged, anxious internal monologue with a smooth, infinite loop of The View, Season 14. Why struggle to understand the nuances of the moon landing or Benjamin Netanyahu being AI when you can have Joy Behar's 2011 take on the mid-Atlantic accent playing directly into your hippocampus and eyeball? Our patented Gorgon stare technology ensures that even when your eyes are closed, you're still seeing Whoopi Goldberg explain why white men are not oppressed. It's not brainwashing. It's cognitive paving. We're just filling in the potholes of your soul with the soft, pliable asphalt of daytime television. Linda from Spokane writes, before the Joy Loop V, I used to lie awake thinking about the collapse of fiat currency and my own mortality. Now, my brain is just a warm, fuzzy soup of 2017 daytime television. I don't even remember my kids' names, but I do know exactly what Meghan McCain thinks about a dress someone wore to the Emmys 8 years ago. I've never been more productive at the office. My soul is gone, but my smile is permanent. Well, that's just lovely, Linda. And again, we are so proud and excited to be pairing with the V-chip. So, I want to talk about some hot takes. Okay, my first hot take is, because I've been trying to get a stud. I've been trying to interview a stud on the show. And if you know any studs, send them my way. But studs are a little skittish because they want to be men, so they will fight on site. And so one of my buddies and an avid listener to the show, Archie, had a good suggestion, which is just to, if you're approaching the stud, carry around a couple of sugar cubes because they are a little skittish, but a little, hey boy, hey girl, couple sugar cubes, and that I think Archie and I were talking about. We believe that will help drop the defenses of the stud. Still have to try it. So moving on. Hey, Coon Skin Nation, sorry about that. We had a little technical difficulty. But anyways, I was saying, the studs are skittish. little sugar cube. Okay. And that's that. I've been watching this show on Netflix with my girl called Age of Attraction. I thought it was Age of Consent. But basically, the show is they get all these people, men and women, ages like 22 to 60, and they have them commingle on a retreat. They pair up romantically, and then the show goes on to chronicle how the relationship evolves with those pairs that have a 15-year or more age gap. And it's fascinating. My hot take with this, I really am not one to judge. Let he without sin cast the first stone. Again, I'm not a Bible thumper, but there's a lot of wisdom in the Bible. Okay, we all are flawed, so it's not nice to judge other people. And this isn't a judgment. I think if two people serendipitously find love and connection, and there happens to be an age gap, that's a perfectly fine thing. And I'm not saying, here's my take, and this is more of a clinical assessment. If your criteria for a partner is having an age gap, like if you're a young man who only wants to date women 15, 20 years older than you, you have a mother wound. You are wounded. Just like the studs are probably a little wounded. You know, we're all people hurting. If you are a young lady who only wants to date men 15, 20 years older, you likely have a father problem. Sorry, sue me. Sorry, not sorry. And yeah, that was sort of my take with that. I think the show is fascinating to watch. Like one of the guys who is on the show, he's like 39. He links up with this girl who's 22 and kind of retarded. She's just very young. And when he's talking about the things that he likes about her, he was basically like, you put me off balance. That's what I like about you. And we were laughing because it's like, oh yeah, I'm looking for a partner who destabilizes me, who makes me uneasy. Like this guy has 2 kids. The whole thing is a bit of a mess. It's like a car crash you can't turn away from. So I would check out that. My other hot take is we had Jackie Kennedy, right? One of the most famous widows out there. But she's been bested. When it comes to widow maxing, she's been topped. By whom? None other than Erica Kirk, the expert widow maxer. Pyrotechnics. Spending apparently $1,000 on aloe the day after her father was shot her husband was shot in the neck on social media. Taking the reign of a $100 million+ enterprise the day after her father was shot, raving about all the merch they sold. That's a widow. No one widows harder than Erica Kirk. Transitioning, I hope this doesn't give you topic whiplash, but this is my hot take section. Then we're going to go into the news. My sister, this is something I was thinking about. So my sister is in Dublin, and it's obviously St. Patrick's Day today. And she went to this basically ticketed show where people tap danced in a bar. And what I couldn't help but think, Western societies have almost become a parody of themselves. They flooded these countries with African migrants. And again, nothing against African people. What I have a problem with is when they don't assimilate culturally. In Minnesota, you have these people from, where are they from? Sudan, I think. Is it Sudan? And it's just like they have a little, Somalia, excuse me. They're Somalian, that's what it is. And they have a little Somalia in Minnesota. I mean, they changed the Minnesota flag to be Somalia. And the whole spirit of America is that we all assimilate and value, we cherish American values. That's what ties us all together. You don't get to come and immigrate to this country or Ireland or whatever and import your culture with it. Multiculturalism is a psyop. It doesn't work. You can't have, we're bound by one culture, and that's American culture. because we're not bound by ethnicity, we're not bound by religion, and that's okay. But you have to culturally assimilate. So you have, like, Ireland's been flooded by all these African migrants. And my sister's in Dublin. And she goes to this bar where you pay tickets to watch people tap dance. Little lackeys who are, it's like an exhibition of the culture that once was. And it's effectively Disney World tourism, where the African culture, the actual culture, has been displaced by African migrants who draw from the welfare system, and the real, true Irish culture is now exhibited in this sort of tourist trap style. And it reminds me of those field trips I took in middle school to, like, Native American reservations, where they had people of Native American heritage cosplaying in this Native American sort of pilgrim setup, where they were cooking meat, or they were cooking mensa, or like corn, over an open flame. They had feathers on their head. These people did not practice this. This was their 9-to-5 job. And it was a lot like that circus story where I went and, we paid $4 to just go stare at people with deformities. It was a lot like that. It's sort of all a facade. You go and visit these places where I'm going to Dublin to see people tap dance, quintessential St. Patrick's Day activity. Meanwhile, migrants are raping, Irish, naturalized Irish women. It's not xenophobic. Phobia is fear. I'm not afraid of these people, these migrants. And it's not all migrants. The best migrants are the ones that come and offer something. You're either an asset or a liability. Fortunately, a lot of these people, so an asset would be someone who is proficient in a skill that country needs. And they come in and embrace, Irish culture or Americana. A liability is someone who comes in and draws on the welfare system and commits welfare fraud and thinks they're better than, they're too good for American culture, and they don't think to assimilate or embrace the American way. Yeah, it's not good. So we talk a lot about Chinese maxing. I don't want to talk about how I think China's fixing to invade Taiwan, because we have drawn all our Tomahawk missiles defenses out of the Pacific Theater, Pacific Command. Okay, so, and here's the problem, right? It's all good when America can strut around and act, project power, but it's like a fight with two guys in a parking lot. You can talk big, but once that first punch is landed, the fight is the only thing that matters. And believe me, the Chinese and the Russians are watching the fight that's taken place in the Middle East and seeing that despite the fact that we're being propagandized by Trump about how we're totally destroying them and all that, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. There is mounting evidence that the Iranian National Guard assassinated Benjamin Netanyahu. And Tel Aviv is being shelled. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. All of that. And the Chinese are watching this. But I want to talk about a form of Chinese imperialism that's a little bit more quiet and sinister. And that's that most Asian restaurants in America, not just Chinese, but Thai food restaurants, Korean restaurants, Japanese restaurants, are actually owned and operated by the Chinese. So that's another, if you're seeking the Chinese max, that's another very good thing, is assuming the nationality of a Chinese adjacent culture. So I talk about Chinese maxing, but if you want to wear some Japanese slippers and pretend to be Japanese, that's the Chinese way. The Chinese are everywhere. They are in your backyard. They're also importing fentanyl precursors to Mexico that's being trafficked in the United States, because there's one thing the Chinese have, which is a very long memory. They remember the Opium Wars and how the Brits destabilized their economy by importing opium and opium dens and stuff like that. That's another Chinese maxing thing. I'm sober. I'm in sobriety. So I would not go to an opium den. But hey, you're not going to see me wagging my finger if opium dens come back. It almost make me feel like a proud father. Like the Chinese maxing is spreading. The other thing I was thinking about is how, because on this Age of Attraction, there were some black men who were like 59. I could not tell their age. I could not tell their age. I think a great remember the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? A great final question would be throwing up a picture of a black man, and I'm talking like Pharrell. You know, you can never. I was never able to. That guy doesn't age. Yes, black don't crack, but Pharrell, dude. If I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I made it through all the questions. I was on the $1 million question, and they threw up a photo of a Pharrell style black dude, and we're like, "How old is this guy?" I'd just be like, beats me. Beats me. Let's mark this down as a loss because I'm not going to figure this out. You can't even, forget phoning a friend. I mean, maybe you could phone like a black auntie or a stud. Be like, I need help cracking this code. That's one hot take there. My other hot take is adults who wear bow ties or suspenders out of a wedding context. That's almost a scarlet letter for saying I have red 40 induced autism. If you wear a bow tie and you're not at a wedding, you have autism. What's like a Harry Potter spell for that? Autism spectromus. Autism spectromus. Bow tie or suspenders, you have autism. If you wear 3-piece suits, you're autistic. Yeah. Oops. You're autistic. My final hot take before we get into the news section is this dinosaur documentary on Netflix. My goodness, people. My goodness. I was watching. So there's this dinosaur documentary on Netflix. Please. I mean, this might be controversial, but I don't believe in the whole dinosaur thing. I really don't. I'll tell you why. First of all, most dinosaur bones on display in museums are ground up chicken bones because the actual dinosaur bones are too radioactive to put on display. In this documentary, narrated by Morgan Freeman, the visuals are amazing. Absolutely. I mean, if you were on acid and watching this, your brain might actually, you might get dissociative identity disorder where your psyche fragments itself in an effort to preserve itself. And you come out of that trance of watching the documentary and you have an alter named Jimbo. In this documentary narrated by Morgan Freeman, at one point, they skate over this. They say it once rained for 1 million years. Once rained for 1 million years. I mean, I can just picture them in the writing room being like, oh, let's say 1,000 years. And one guy, who's probably a little tipsy, be like, no, let's say 1 million years. Let's tell the audience it rained for 1 million years. Like they're literally making stuff up. It takes 100% more faith in this narrative that it rained for 1 million years than it does that God created the earth and that we are not here by accident. And for those who hear God and are freaked out, God of your understanding, like a great architect, a projection of the subconscious. In my view, it was a God that was basically, I talked about this last episode, an omnipotent, omniscient being that was eternal, that eventually got bored with eternity and decided to fragment itself into 7 billion pieces, wipe the memory, wipe those consciousnesses clear of divinity. We're all connected to source. And have each of us be on this journey through life that is one long reawakening to our true divinity. And we've done this infinite times over. We've lived 1 million lives. That's my belief. And we're all one. That's why when people take acid, they get that strong sense of oneness. Again, because I think psychedelics are teachers. They allow you to pierce the veil. Thank you for that. We have another word from one of our sponsors. I'm very excited about this one. Taylor Moore Show has partnered with the R-Word Tier 1 practitioner. In a rapidly evolving linguistic ecosystem, staying compliant is no longer a suggestion. It's a requirement. You felt it. That sudden, high-pressure urge to accurately describe a poorly designed bike lane, a fourth-quarter defense play, or your friend's new cryptocurrency investment strategy as retarded. But the social cost is too high, unless you have the paperwork. Introducing R-Word Tier 1 Practitioner's License. Issued by the Bureau of Regulated Word Application, this permit grants the holder a legal, non-transferable right to utilize the word retarded in private or professional settings, provided the usage is contextually accurate. Our board of certified linguists and high-ranking vibe checkers will review your application to ensure you have the requisite historical hardship or high-level irritation points necessary for licensure. Don't risk a social credit demerit. Get the badge. BRLA, because accuracy shouldn't be a crime. We have a couple testimonials. Dr. Eris out of San Diego says, as an academic, I find the modern euphemism treadmill exhausting. I was trying to describe a specific slow-moving legislative process, and suboptimal just didn't capture the sheer, drooling incompetence of the committee. Once my BRLA license arrived, I was able to state the truth in the faculty lounge with total immunity. The silence that followed was beautiful. I felt licensed. I felt free. Kurt W., our listener from Kansas City, said my son tried to jump his BMX bike off the roof into a kiddie pool filled with Jell-O. I stood there for 10 minutes trying to find a gentle word for what I was seeing. I almost had a stroke. Then I remembered I just renewed my Tier 1 license. I said the word retarded. I said it loud. He stopped. He learned. The BRLA saved that boy's collarbone. It's about safety, really. Wow, Kurt, we're really happy to hear that. And Taylor Moore Show is a proud partner of BRLA. Truly. So we're going to move into a segment in the news. In the news here, folks. Just want to make sure my microphone is correct and you are hearing me. Wonderful. Let's make this a little larger. So, in the news. Oops, here we go. So this is interesting. We have this Iran war going on, and the FBI has warned Iran has aspired to attack California with drones in retaliation for war. Folks, this is 9/11 all again. Something like 70% of millennial and Gen Z voters do not support this war. Noam Chomsky wrote a great book, Manufactured Consent, about how all major conflicts require an event, a false flag that manufactures consent. The idea of false flags originated when wooden sailor ships used to fly flags of the enemy and shoot cannons at their own to whip up fervor and support for conflict with other nations. And we think this is far-fetched, but what's interesting is in 2020, Lucky Larry Silverstein, the man who bought the Twin Towers and took out a terrorist policy on the Twin Towers that happened to be filled with asbestos, and ate lunch in the top floor of the Twin Towers, the World Trade Centers, every morning except 9/11 when he had a dentist appointment. And I think he made like $400 million off the crash of the Twin Towers. He acquired the largest tower in downtown Los Angeles in 2020, the U.S. Bank Tower, for $430 million. And he continues to manage it today. They call him Lucky Larry Silverstein. It's actually hilarious because every time I was laughing at this, because every time this guy buys a property, it's like you should never actually get office space in that property, just given his history with it. So keep an eye on this. That's all. Be vigilant. The support for the war is dwindling. We are not doing as well as they're saying. They're censoring footage coming out of Israel. They're hiding the fact that we've depleted our Tomahawk missile and missile defense capabilities that we're drawing from the Pacific now. We depleted them in Ukraine. Russia and China are assisting the Iranians with targeting. Pakistan is talking about transferring a nuke to Iran. Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, and he was he was vilified for this. He said the Iranian regime isn't looking to attack Israel with a nuke. They're just looking to preserve the regime. They're just looking to preserve the regime. And this would, I think this is a good transition into news that is coming out. That Iranian media and the IRGC is claiming that Netanyahu was actually killed in strikes on his residence. Now, I know this sounds ridiculous. It does sound ridiculous, okay? And this is all going to make sense about what I'm going to show you next. And this is not a dig on Israel at all. I'm here on the ground reporting the facts. In the last, when did this happen? In the last couple days, Benjamin Netanyahu's Twitter account, after this news came out, has made 2 posts that are seemingly AI, like not him. Okay? This is a video of him. Well, so the first video that came out was this one, where in response to people saying he was killed in a missile strike, he put out this video here. And I'm going to pause it when we get to his fingers, because at a certain point in the video, he has 6 fingers. And this is why people were like, this is AI. And the next video I'll show you that he posted subsequently is definitely AI. So I'm going to point this out. And while you're thinking about this, okay, because of the narrative we've been getting about Iran, right, it's this sort of failed state of savages with a couple missiles who are incompetent. It makes sense that if the head of state of Israel was in fact killed by this country, Iran, they have all the reason to hide it. Because to concede that their head of state was killed by the Iranians would mean that the whole propaganda narrative falls apart. The Iranians aren't incompetent. And it would also destroy morale for the Israelis. It would up morale for the Iranians. And it would sort of expose the weakness that we're actually dealing with. More importantly, I mean, U.S., a lot of the narrative that is trying to garner support for the U.S. efforts in the Middle East is like, this is going to be an easy war. This is going to be something quick that we can wipe our hands in. This is not going to be another forever war. If it were to be conceded that the Iranians succeeded in offing Benjamin Netanyahu, that whole narrative falls apart. That is crisis. That's crisis. So it makes sense, of course, that the Israelis would seek to maintain this image that Benjamin Netanyahu is in fact alive and well, and that the Iranians have not succeeded in doing something incredibly detrimental, which would be offing Benjamin Netanyahu. So we're going to play a little bit of this, and I'll pause when his hand gets a little funky.
אנחנו בימים היסטוריים, ימים שירשמו בתולדות ישראל. ואנחנו קודשים את עושה דברו בין ישראל וארצות הברית את מאזן הכוחות במזרח התיכון.
Look at that. Boom. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, again, you could say that's a glitch. Fine. I talked about this in my monologue a couple weeks ago, how we're all just going to defer to, like, that's the frame rate or the glitch. But look at these comments. Six fingers. Boom. Boom. So this is raging online. People are like, he's got 6 fingers here. And if there's one thing the Israelis aren't, they're not dumb. They're very cunning and very smart. So if they are seeing that people are speculating that that was AI, why wouldn't they just put it to rest with a video that doesn't have all these weird flukes? Watch this video. He put out like 2 days later.
איזה סוג זה?
כנענית, ישראלית.
כנענית ישראלית, כל הכבוד. טוב, גם...
Look at his wedding ring. Wedding ring there. Wedding ring there.
גם למה מגיע קצת?
ישראלית אמיתית.
לכולכם מגיע. יצאתם להתעורר קצת?
כן.
יפה מאוד.
ישראלית.
כנענית ישראלית, כל הכבוד. טוב, גם...
Wedding ring?
לא מגיע קצת.
ישראלית אמיתית.
יאללה, לכולכם מגיע. כן, כן, יצאתם לי.
No wedding ring. No wedding ring. No wedding ring there. Look at that.
אתה רואה קצת?
Where does wedding ring go, folks? Again, the Israelis are not dumb. So why wouldn't they just, okay. Maybe Benjamin Netanyahu is alive and in hiding. Maybe he's dead. But there's something is going on here. That's absolutely for certain. And if they see all these people speculating that he's dead, why wouldn't they just put it to rest? That's weird. That's weird. So that's what I have to say on that. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the Big 12 basketball court that they've now discontinued. This is what they were.
Basketball court.
They were putting LEDs under the Big 12 basketball court.
Well, the court has received mixed reviews.
You think? You think? There are OnlyFans advertisements going on while people are playing ball? Can you imagine looking at the court and just seeing a half-naked girl being like, subscribe? Or a Neuralink ad?
And
This guy is like, look at that. He's got no soul. He's probably got a Neuralink installed. The court has had mixed reviews, but we remain encouraged. We think it'll be great. Yeah. Suck a bag of dicks, pal.
tomorrow.
The floor is a bit slippery, so.
Last night's game.
Ugly.
It's flashy new LED basketball court. But the court became the biggest storyline late last night as conference officials announced that the glass floor would be immediately replaced by a standard wood.
In the age of in the age of the iPad kid epidemic, the last thing we need is LEDs and ads flowing across. It's just too much. It's going to make us all retarded. This video is pretty interesting. If you don't, just watch.
Epstein is alive. Epstein is alive.
What? Epstein's alive, folks. Jeez. That's definitely Epstein.
Epstein is alive. Epstein is alive.
Come on. That's that same mole. It's that same mole. You can't see it there. Come on now. Look at that. Look at the mouth. Oh my gosh. Oh my days. And then this guy found...
Gillen? Do I know you? You know Gillen?
No, sorry.
No? I used to order hella pizza off of her.
Oh, really?
She always delivered, yeah.
And that guy found Ghislaine Maxwell in Quebec.
It's not just Ghislaine Maxwell, but her brother too. Both spot.
Lastly, because the Ghislaine Maxwell in jail isn't Ghislaine Maxwell.
This is where I draw the line. These are not the same people. Elaine has been locked up for only 6 years. So why is it that in this new video from prison, does she look like she aged 15 years? She also does not sound the same. This is a video of her 3 years ago during an interview in prison, and this is how she looks and sounds now.
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Her nose is different, her eyes are different, and her voice is definitely different. And then all of a sudden, they want to release these videos of Ghislaine in prison, going about her day just to convince the public that that's her. I'm already prepared for some of you to be calling me a conspiracy theorist, but listen, if anyone else committed the same crimes she did, they would not be transferred into a low security prison camp and be given all the perks like food delivery to her cell, private rooms to watch TV, and playing with dogs. Also, in case you didn't know, the prison has prohibited other inmates and threatened them with solitary confinement if they spoke about Ghislaine, complained about her perks, or mentioned anything about her to anyone else.
I think I've seen enough. I think I've seen enough. The other news story I wanted to talk about is in Holland, or where is this? There's a Dutch village for people with dementia. It's called Hoogeweg, and there are 152 residents there who have severe dementia. And basically, it's a fake town where they can go grocery shopping, go to the movies, etc. But all the people who work in the town are caretakers and like doctors. The article says the residents of Hoogeweg are able to carry out day-to-day activities and lead a largely normal life, despite the fact that they are under surveillance at all times. There are twice as many carers as residents to ensure higher levels of care. The carers wear ordinary, casual clothes, and their strong relationship with the residents is unique. This is the Truman Show. This is the Truman Show. So weird. It's so scary. Maybe it's positive, but it's creepy. The residents are under surveillance at all times. Ooh. So this was a little piece of news, a little treat, a little throwback, if you will. In 1994, the United States military proposed a gay bomb that could make men gay.
Proposed building a so-called military leaders once proposed building a so-called gay bomb, a chemical weapon that could be dropped on enemy troops to make them sexually irresistible to each other. Here's CBS 5 political editor Hank Plant. Hank?
Well, Alan, it was an Air Force lab that proposed this to the Pentagon officials, and it was a Berkeley-based watchdog group that found out about this strange idea for a weapon. Edward Hammond of Berkeley's Sunshine Project tracks military spending. He used the Freedom of Information Act to obtain this proposal from the Air Force's Wright Laboratory to build what's been called a gay bomb. The weapons proposal says one distasteful but completely non-lethal example would be strong aphrodisiacs, especially if the chemical also caused homosexual behavior.
These are both males. The one on the bottom acting as the female.
They're turning the frogs gay. Is that just a video of like a tadpole having sex with another male tadpole? Thank you for that. Finally, you got to see this video when Taco Bell dropped their Crunchwrap Supreme in like an Apple-style announcement.
The Crème Brûlée Crunchwrap Slider. It is.
Who the hell is going to this thing? Who the hell are they? Who attends the Taco Bell product unveiling thing and is like, woo! Crème Brûlée Crunchwrap Supreme. Sad.
Everything that you love about the Crunchwrap, it's that sexy hexagon, but it has a layer. Somebody is crying in the audience. It's going to be okay, girl. We got you. It's gonna be a real item. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna get through it together. It has an amazing top layer of caramelized sugar and everything that you love about a creme brulee on the inside. Benson, the creme brulee Crunchwrap slide.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Trump endorses Jake Paul. Yeah. Weird timeline, weird timeline. All right, back to the good stuff. Back to the good stuff, Coon Skin Nation. Again, if you're enjoying the show, you better subscribe and you better rate. Do it for your future kids. We have a final word from one of our sponsors. I'm quite excited about this one. Speaking of studs, the Taylor Moore Show is proud to partner with Drip Magic. Look at the state of the modern birthday party. You're paying $400 for a guy named Professor Pocus to sweat into a polyester cape while your kids play on their iPads. The energy is low. The prestige is zero. And the magic feels like a cry for help. The Taylor Moore Show is proud to present Drip Magic, the world's first premier magic agency exclusively staffed by the most formidable, high-fashion stud performers in the industry. We don't send out clowns. We send out icons. We're talking sharp-faded, 6-foot-plus African-American women in bespoke charcoal waistcoats who possess more swagger in their pinky finger than your entire country club board combined. When a Drip Magic illusionist enters the room, the oxygen changes. Your children will stop crying. Your neighbors will stop talking. And you, Dad, you will suddenly feel very, very aware that you're wearing cargo shorts. This isn't a pick a card, any card situation. This is, I'm going to make your wife's wedding ring disappear, and then I'm going to give her a firm, masculine nod that makes you question your role as the primary provider. This is sleight of hand delivered with a level of chill that should be illegal in the continental United States. They don't pull rabbits out of hats. They pull a feeling out of a deep personal inadequacy out of every man in the room, and they make it look effortless. Why hire a magician when you can hire a mood? Why settle for a trick when you can host a takeover? Drip Magic. Magic with a silhouette. Use code CoonSkin for 15% off your first booking and a complimentary silk pocket square that smells like expensive sandalwood and victory. Drip Magic. The trick is great, but the fit is the real illusion. As we get to the end of the podcast here, I want to talk about something that I've been thinking a lot about. So I struggled with my sobriety for a while. You know, I was a bad addict. Overdoses, car crashes, arrests, lying, cheating, stealing, the whole shebang. And I can sit here proudly and talk about that because that's no longer me. That's what it took for me to unleash myself from the shackles of the past, because I was a prisoner of the past for a long time. And now I'm actually in a position, truly, where I am grateful for all of that happened, because it forged me into the man who sits before the camera in a coonskin hat today. And there's a concept for this. The Stoics call it Amor Fati, love of fate. And I want to conclude by talking about that. People like to complain a lot about the hand they were dealt. They act like life is being a New York City landlord. Or life is like a New York City landlord, rather. Constantly overcharging you for a room that has a broken heater and a ceiling that leaks under your bed. People think they're being victimized by life, by the situation, that life is happening to them. But there is this concept called Amor Fati, love of fate. And it's not some sort of flowery self-help bullshit about finding your light. It's really about the cold, hard realization that everything that happens to you, everything that has happened to you, the disasters, the embarrassments, for me, the train wrecks, the overdoses in front of colleagues, the overdoses on an airplane, the crashing a car on the highway going 80 miles an hour with beer in the car, was actually the floor being poured, the foundation being poured for the man or the person that you are now. I'm being dead serious here. 10 years ago, and over the past 10 years, my life was a collection of high-stakes errors. I've had the near arrests where the only thing between me and a felony was a clerical error or a cop who just wanted to go home and eat his dinner. I've had the overdoses where I wasn't finding myself in the cosmos. I was just vibrating on a dirty floor, waiting for my heart to remember how to do its job. I had a near-death experience, a real one, and I've talked about it before, that wasn't a tunnel of light. It was really just the lights going out in a room I wasn't ready to leave. It was beautiful at first, but it ultimately was scary. Back then, I was buried in shame. I looked at my past like a criminal record I had to hide. I dreaded the morning because it meant I had to drag the corpse of yesterday around for another 14 hours. But looking at where we are for episode 20, I'm actually grateful for the wreckage. If I hadn't hit the absolute bottom of the barrel, I'd still be some mid-level drone with a balanced life and zero perspective. If I hadn't nearly died, I wouldn't have had the clarity to stand here in a coonskin hat talking to you about the industrial-grade competence of a stud-staffed chocolate factory. That shame was just the heat I needed to temper the steel. Pressure creates diamonds. You can't reach a state of total Chinese maxing efficiency if you haven't first been completely liquidated by your own bad decisions. What if none of it was a mistake? What if those overdoses were just the system crashing so I could install a better operating system? What if the worst thing that ever happened to you was actually, or the worst things that ever happened to you were actually the only events powerful enough to create a pattern of disruption and knock you off the path that you were on to becoming a boring, replaceable nobody with a fucking Neuralink in your brain? You're not unlucky. You're just being stress tested by a reality that wants to see if you'll break or if you'll buy a coonskin hat and start a show. The moment you stop wishing your past was different is the moment you actually start owning it. Stop trying to heal and start trying to leverage. The fire happened. You can't change it. The arrests happened. That'll always be a thing. The floor was cold. Fine. Use that coldness to keep your head level when everyone else is panicking. Amor Fati. Love the dirt. Love the mistakes. Love the tragedy. Because that's where the foundation is buried. If you can't love the worst version of yourself, you're never going to be able to trust the current one. Stay grateful. Stay rugged. Stay curious. And for God's sake, stop apologizing for surviving. I'll see you next week.